Peter seems bipolar, one of the craziest story arcs of all of Jesus' disciples. He's all or nothing, amazingly passionate, frustratingly disappointing. But if we look at it honestly, it's hard to say that we would be any different. If I were coaching or leading a team, I would gladly take people who were willing to risk embarrassment or failure because of their level of passion and commitment. That brings us to Matthew, chapter 17, verses 1 through 9. Yes, if you're paying attention, that means that I skipped chapters 15 and 16. It's not because they're not important, but we will cover those at some point in other Gospels. Feel free to read them on your own. So how many disciples did Jesus take with him on the mountain? In verse 1, 3. There are certain numbers that we find with regularity in the Bible. 3, 7, 10, 12, 40 are just some of the common ones. Jesus uses 2 of these numbers in the construction of his disciples. We've talked about the 12, but Jesus had more than just 12 disciples. It's actually believed that he had upwards of 70 dedicated followers, but he chose those 12 to directly train. Of those 12, he chose these 3 to be his inner circle, and of those, he had the closest training relationship with just one, John. So what does this mean? Why am I bringing all this up? Have you ever had somebody try to sell you on this kind of concept? What you're going to do is you're going to tell 3 of your friends, and those friends are going to tell 3 of their friends, and those friends are going to tell 3 of those friends, and that is how we're going to impact people. Sometimes this is referred to as a pyramid scheme. But what it actually is good leadership. It would be ineffective to try to train and develop all 70 of the followers. So Jesus focuses on the 1, then the 3, and then the 12, and empowers them to train and develop the others in the same way. So back to the weirdness that's about to take place in Matthew 17:2. As I read this, I want you to close your eyes and imagine it as if you were there. As the men watched, Jesus' appearance was transformed so that his face shone like the sun, and his clothes were as white as light. Suddenly, Moses and Elijah appeared and began talking with Jesus. Peter exclaimed, "Lord, it's wonderful for us to be here. If you want, I'll make 3 shelters for memorials, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." But even as he spoke, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my dearly loved Son, who brings me great joy. Listen to him." The disciples were terrified and fell face down on the ground. Then Jesus came over and touched them. "Get up," he said. "Don't be afraid." And when they looked up, Moses and Elijah were gone, and they saw only Jesus. How freaky would that be? Jesus' face started glowing. He was joined by long-gone ancestors from the past. God spoke from heaven. And then it was over. Then in the middle of the whole thing, Peter offered to set up tents so they could just stay there. Then on the way back down the mountain, Jesus instructed them not to tell anyone anything that had happened until after he was gone. But at some point, somebody said something because Matthew wasn't there and he's the one writing this. So what does this reveal about God or Jesus? This is not some David Blaine or Chris Angel elaborate illusion. Jesus is not held by the natural world. He created it, so he is not bound by it. In case you're counting, this is the 2nd time that we've heard God's voice from heaven recognize Jesus as his son. It's also worth pointing out Jesus' connection here to the Old Testament through Moses and Elijah, because so many people love to point out the difference between the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament. Guess what? It's the same God. So what does this mean for you? Realize that God is so much more powerful than you could ever imagine. But don't miss the moments. Peter was so worried about capturing a way to stay in the moment that he missed the moment. Have you ever missed being present, trying to capture the memory in a photo or a video? Don't miss it. Stay present. Subscribe to keep up with all the shorts and full episodes.